So this is, of course, Gabby Ortega, and Gabby is one of our master coaches, obviously for Metamorphosis. And Gabby just finished an incredible training with Jack Cornfield studying mindfulness. And so our community is gonna, for the next week, get to sit in some mindfulness with Gabby. And
Yay!
yeah, Gabby, we're so grateful. I'm so grateful for this. I'm super connected to Jack Cornfield and Tara Brock, so I love that you're doing this.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience to do a 2 year program, getting to learn directly from Jack Cornfield and Tara Brock. They both, um, have changed my life in so many ways. And so being able to actually sit with them, practice with them, learn directly from them, it feels like such a gift. And I'm really, really excited to share what I've learned with you guys and um, hopefully give you some practices that you can take with you that are super easy to do and help you kind of become clearer and less stressed and more present, which is hard to do. So, yeah. All right, so let's get into it. The format, like I mentioned before, I'm going to spend about 20 minutes talking about kind of the basics of mindfulness and what it is and why it's really important that we learn this skill. And then we'll do a 20-minute practice. I'm going to be inviting you into a five senses mindfulness meditation practice. It's a really great kind of opening way to start with mindfulness if you've never done it before, and something that also really can help you ground yourself if you're feeling a little bit stressed or there's something going on in your life that's heavy, and nice to be grounded. Okay. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat. I would love to hear from you. Let me know where you're from as well, because I love learning where people are actually from and where you're living. I'm currently in France. It is 5 o'clock here. And yeah, awesome. So, okay. What is mindfulness? I think when I first heard the term mindfulness, I thought it was a very woo woo spiritual thing. And yes, there are components to mindfulness that are spiritual and it has spiritual benefits, but there's also a lot of science and scientific benefits to mindfulness. It's rooted and grounded in a lot of neuroscience and nervous system science that is super important and really cool to learn about. So I'm going to share a little bit about that with you today. The theme or phrase I really want you guys to hold on to is I want you to use mindfulness to become the architect of your life experience. You're the builder of how you experience life. Two people can go through the same experience and have two completely different perceptions of that said experience based on their own history, based on their own belief systems, based on everything. So there really isn't a one size fits all reality, if you will. It's a collective of perceptions, individual perceptions, right? And so, in many ways, we have a lot of power to, let's let them in. We have a lot of power to shape the way we experience life if we can become more observant of what's going on in our thoughts, what's going on in our body, what's going on with our emotions, and how we are perceiving life, right? And then we can reframe to make it more supportive for us. Um, so let's say something maybe not so great happened to you. You can either sit with the heaviness and the weight of, oh my God, let's say you failed a test or something. Oh my God, I failed this test. I'm an awful student. I'm not smart. I'm never going to make anything of my life. I should just quit while I'm ahead and like, that's it for me. And the story, right, that comes up around that experience is shaped by your thoughts that come up, the immediate automatic thoughts, your nervous system feeling that anxiety, that shame, that stress. And we often tend to grab onto the emotions and the thoughts that pop into our head automatically or in our body automatically because we believe them to be true. And what mindfulness really helps us do is slow down and create space so that we can really look at, from an objective point of view and a kind of distance point of view, what are the stories that are coming up for me? What are the emotions that I'm feeling? What are the triggered sensations in my body? And what can I do to ease into those, sit with those, help dissipate some of that? And how can I reshape my thoughts and my perspective so that it supports my happiness? So it supports my empowerment, right? So going back to that example, so you're feeling these body sensations come up, right? That's your fight or flight being activated. And then your brain starts going on a hamster wheel, thinking thoughts. Thoughts are popping in from left and right. These are not conscious thoughts, these are automatic thoughts. They come from your subconscious. And 95% of your thoughts are actually automatic thoughts that come from your subconscious. And your subconscious, based on all of your past experiences, has created certain belief systems. So if you tend to have low self-esteem, if you tend to already feel like you can't do stuff, or you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, you're not smart enough, that kind of thing, that's going to be the first thing that pops up when you fail a test, right? That's the story that's going to pop into your head. And with mindfulness, like I said, we use breath and presence to create space so that we can reframe, so that we can go in there into our body, use some somatic tools to kind of ease ourselves out of that fight or flight. And we can go into our mind and shift our perspective a little bit. So instead of latching onto and reinforcing those old stories by believing them right away, we can go, hold on one second. I see these thoughts coming up. Like, I think of a marquee in Times Square. They're just like words, you know, these thoughts are popping up in my head. Well, that's interesting. Let me get curious about that. Like, where are those thoughts coming from? Because what is the real truth? The truth is, I'm learning. I'm not perfect. I'm a human being. Sometimes I'm going to fail a test. Doesn't make me any less intelligent, doesn't make me any less worthy. Just means I have more to learn, more to study, more to grow. What an opportunity. And so you get yourself out of that shame spiral by reframing your belief. And what that also does is, rather than reinforcing the neural connections of your old belief systems, it's like, think about it like lifting weights. Every time you believe these old belief systems that are not serving your highest good or your happiness, you're like lifting that weight, you're strengthening that muscle. That's going to be the dominant thought, the dominant belief that comes up in your mind, because every single time it pops up, you never challenge it or reframe it. When you start to reframe your belief systems and you soothe your nervous system to expand into those belief systems rather than be triggered by them, you start lifting a different weight and you start building different neural connections. And sooner than later, actually, with consistency, the first thought that pops into your head when you fail a test is not going to be, I'm not enough, I'm not smart enough, I can't do it, I can't hack it, it's my fault. It's going to be, oh, okay, shit happens. This is a really great opportunity for me to like dive deeper into whatever this subject is and learn more about it. Okay, cool. And then the feelings associated with that experience become more positive, more empowering. You walk a little taller, right? You don't feel that heavy shame in your belly. And this is what I mean by becoming the architect of your life experience, literally how you experience your life. I remember back in 2015, like I started going on this journey in 2015, 2016. But all my life before that, I was severely bullied. I had complex trauma, CPTSD. I had PTSD from major trauma. I have ADHD. I had a lot of trouble fitting in, a lot of trouble, like really learning the social aspect of things. And so my whole life, I was like riddled with anxiety about making friends and who's going to like me. No one likes me. I'm not good enough. I'm not funny enough. And it was really a horrible experience. By the time I got to 2015, the rest of my life was also kind of falling apart. I had tremendous amounts of anxiety, depression, low self esteem, codependency issues, and definitely leaning on substances to make that better and easier for myself, which of course always backfires when you're doing it that way. And felt just really lost. And what mindfulness helped me do was it helped me heal my nervous system so that I could feel safer, calmer, less anxious, less stressed, which allowed my thoughts to slow down. And it allowed me to look at my thoughts and go, what isn't working here about these belief systems? Like, what is not working here with the way I'm thinking about myself and about my life? And can I reshape this truth so that it supports me and supports my happiness and my well being and my health? Because that's all that matters in life, you guys. Like that you're happy, you're healthy, you're living like a conscious, good human on this planet, sharing that vibration, rippling effect wherever you go, hopefully. Um, and it was a really powerful shift. And that's the only reason I was able to get rid of my anxiety, get rid of my chronic anxiety, chronic depression. I was able to finally meet friends that were actually meant for me, because this whole time I was chasing people that were not like aligned with who I truly was. It helped me actually figure out on a deeper level even who I was, because I had no idea. I was chameleoning all the time, being whoever somebody wanted me to be, no boundaries, no personality of my own. No, I didn't even know what my favorite song was. I like sat myself down one day and I was like, what's my favorite color? Like, what's my favorite food? What's my favorite song? I have no idea. So I have no idea who I truly am. And mindfulness and practicing this pause and this gentle, curious observation of myself with daily practice, 15, 20 minutes a day, sometimes then 45 minutes. It increased over time because I really enjoyed it. I got to go, whoa, and like take a giant step back from all the stories in my head and a deep breath and go, okay, who do I want to be? And then from that moment forward, I really became the architect of my life experience, because every little moment, every experience that I had throughout the day, I was so present, so aware of the experience and how I was interpreting it and what thoughts were coming up and what was happening in my body, that I was able to like kind of start building like building blocks through these experiences, creating positive experiences for myself for the most part. Now, this isn't to say toxic positivity is a real thing. It's not about like disregarding your pain or not acknowledging the things that happen to you that are painful or awful or bad or heavy, any of that stuff. It's about sitting with those experiences. And when you're ready, trying to shift into how can I make this a positive? Because I promise you, that is how you create mental resiliency. And it's a powerful thing. And, before we jump into our practice, one more thing I wanted to say. If you guys, I have my master's degree in clinical psychology with a double specialization in trauma and early childhood development. And then I went on to study neuroscience and now in my PhD program doing integrative medicine. And the person that comes up time and time again is a man named Viktor Frankl. He's a psychiatrist and he's also a Holocaust survivor. And if you guys ever have a chance to read any of his works, he's incredible. So he survived concentration camps. And he said that the only way he could psychologically survive being in that torturous environment day in and day out was how he perceived basically of what was happening, how he could use mindfulness to shift and create space, ease his body, ease his mind to whatever capacity he could given the circumstances. And he really credits mindfulness for creating psychological resiliency to withstand that experience and come out of it and then become a helper for other people. And he has a really beautiful quote that I love. And I want to get it right, so I have it here. So he says, between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom. So it's about responding to your life, not reacting and staying stuck in the same loops, the same cycles over and over and over. It's taking a pause between your experiences, between that stimulus of the experience and the response or reaction that you give to it, there is a space, and that's what mindfulness helps you cultivate, is that space, and being able to sit in that space in a with a gentle curiosity and no judgment, so that you can choose consciously how you want to respond. And every choice that you make every single day, it's like building blocks. That's going to stack up and create a building. And that building is your life and your experience. So the more you can practice the pause using mindfulness, the more control you have over your entire life, and you can make incredible changes. And the very last thing for my science nerds is there's some really interesting ways that mindfulness actually affects your brain. And there's an amazing study out of Harvard by Dr. Sarah Lazar, if you want to read it. I mean, there's so many studies, but this was like a landmark study that essentially her team found that in just an 8-week mindfulness course, the cortical thickness in the hippocampus increased. So the area of the brain, the hippocampus, is where your learning center and your memory centers are. When the thickness increases, means you have an increased ability to learn better, and have a better memory, right? And in certain parts of the brain that control your emotions and emotional regulation, these parts of the brain were also affected in a way that helped people feel less triggered. And the last thing is that our fight or flight center, which is our amygdala, right? Our amygdala is kind of our alarm bell, right? You know, and anytime we get triggered, it goes ding, 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 fight or flight. Oh, here we go. Like anxiety, depression, which is the freeze state, anger, rage, reactivity, like feeling really emotional or even slightly emotional. Our amygdala is being activated, and the size of your amygdala actually plays a huge role in your ability to tolerate stress. So in this 8-week mindfulness study, they found that the amygdala actually reduced in size. And the reduction in the size of the amygdala meant that people were less triggered, and the fight or flight was going off a lot less. So it took a lot more stress to activate that. Whereas before, maybe took like not that much stress to get people into a state of dysregulation and anxiety and all of that stuff. So mindfulness literally helps you through neurogenesis grow parts of your brain to help you feel more emotionally stable, to help you feel less triggered, to help you change your belief systems about yourself and how you feel about yourself and how you feel about the world and your abilities and your place in it. It increases the parts of your brain that help you with memory and learning, so you can learn more and store more. It repairs the damage and the injuries that are done to the brain if you have specifically complex trauma, childhood trauma, which I would argue 99.9% of us have some level of that. So when you're practicing mindfulness, it's like going to the gym for your brain and for your nervous system. And it's a beautiful, easy, and also not easy way to completely change your life and how you experience it. So we're going to go into a little practice now. That's kind of my little spiel. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. But for this practice, you can just go ahead and find a comfortable seat. You can lay down if that feels good for you. You can close your eyes, or you can keep a soft gaze if you don't feel comfortable closing your eyes. Really tune into giving yourself and your body what feels good in this moment. So before we begin, someone's jumping in. Welcome, Alicia. We're just about to start our practice, so we can go ahead and find a little place to sit down or lie down. We're going to do a little 20-minute mindfulness meditation. Okay, so once you've found that comfortable position, we're just going to start by taking 3 slow, deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth at your own pace. And I encourage you to let out a little noise or a sigh if that feels good. And once you've done those nice deep breaths, if you want to continue for a couple more, totally fine. But you're going to return to a normal breath when it feels comfortable for you. And really focusing on inhaling through the nose and driving that breath down into the belly space, letting your belly really expand like there's a beach ball in there, and then contract all the way out as you exhale. Imagine using that breath to create space. Now, if you are sitting down, pay attention to the feel of your butt on the seat, your feet on the floor. And if you're laying down, just noticing how it feels on your back, wherever you're laying down, that connection, that grounding. Feeling yourself nice and rooted. And just releasing any tension or stress that you might be carrying out through the exhale. Let it melt away from your body. Just feeling every muscle softening and relaxing. Now we're going to go ahead and turn our awareness to our sense of smell. And I want you to just notice with each breath, what are you smelling? What are the different smells that are surrounding you in this moment? Maybe you can even taste these smells in the back of your throat. And then just gently letting that go, bringing it back to the breath, the expansion and contraction of your belly. Now let's shift our awareness to our mouth. Maybe move your tongue around a little bit and see if there are any tastes in your mouth that you can identify. Maybe notice any textures or temperature differences. And then gently letting that experience go, bringing it back to the belly breath. And then let's bring our awareness to our ears and just noticing any sounds that are around you, outside, inside. And I'll give you a minute here just to explore that. Your thoughts pop up, just let them float by like clouds in the sky. Bring it back to what you're hearing in the space that you're in. And then gently letting that go. Bring it back to the belly breath. Now let's bring our awareness to our hands, wherever they might be placed. Just want you to feel the fabric of the clothing you're wearing, or perhaps even the sensation of your own skin. But explore with your hands the experience of feeling. And what is it that you're feeling? Textures, temperatures. Maybe even just touching your arms, giving yourself a hug. And then gently release this experience, let it go, bring it back to the belly breath. I just want you to observe how it feels in the body after doing that. Is there any difference now than when you entered this practice? And just noticing and observing the expansion and the gentle contraction as you breathe in and out. And lastly, we're going to lean into a little bit of metta, which is loving kindness. I'd like for you to feel in your heart space warmth and light, activating that love frequency. And I want you to go ahead and give yourself a burst of loving kindness, giving yourself a little gratitude and love. Thanking yourself for sitting for this practice and for all that you do. And once that feels complete for you, we're going to shift and turn our light energy, our love energy outwards. I want you to think of somebody that you love or like, and I want you to shoot a beam of love directly from your heart and send it right to them. And I want you to think now, let that go, and think of someone who you might be having a little bit of difficulty with. Now, this is the hardest one, and I want you to try and send them a little love. Try sending that beam of love energy right to them. And then lastly, we're going to expand that love as much as we can and send it all across the world to all living beings near and far. Feel yourself raising the vibration of the room around you and of the whole entire planet. And then we're going to gently let it go. Bring it back to the breath. And noticing now as well any changes in how you're feeling. And as we exit our practice gently, just want you to bring this sensation of love with you today, wherever you go, of calm and peace. Remember this feeling and let it guide you. When you're ready, you can take a final deep breath and just integrate the experience. And gently come back into the space, maybe stretch or wiggle your fingers and toes. And very last thing will be to open your eyes. And thank you for practicing with me today. love doing those. I always feel so much better after. So grounded.
Mhm.
Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed that. Oh, you're so welcome, Allison. I hope you guys enjoyed that little practice and chat about mindfulness. If you guys have any questions, I'll leave it open, if you want to drop it in the chat or you can unmute yourself. If you guys have any questions on the live stream, be sure to drop them in the chat as well, or any comments or anything like that. But all you need is like literally 10 minutes a day. You don't need to, I think people think mindfulness and meditation has to be a super complicated thing. And number one, you don't need to sit in meditation to practice mindfulness. There's a million ways you can bring yourself into the present moment. And you got to find kind of like what your flavor is. So you might, here we go. You might want to do like dancing because you love dancing. That's a great mindfulness meditation practice. Doing art, coloring, painting, cooking, even cleaning can be meditative if you're focusing on the task that's right in front of you, and going for walks, getting out into nature, all of that. What is the name of the study? I don't know the actual name of the study, but I will put the name of the researcher. And and I'm sure she's Harvard, she's at Harvard. And oh yeah, I could have done that for so long. I know, I love to like sit in there. So her name is Dr. Sarah Lazar, and she just type her name in Google and then like mindfulness or meditation, and I'm sure you'll find it. Study and you'll find it. I love being guided in my meditations as well. It's I don't know. I find it a little bit. It's definitely harder to meditate when you're by yourself in silence because all the thoughts keep popping up and all the things, and you're not like you have to hold yourself. I think is always a bit more difficult. So I'm on Insight Timer. I only have 3 meditations on there, but if you guys want to listen to more meditations by me, you can go on Insight Timer, and it's free. It's an app, and they also have great meditations from lots of different people. What does metta encompass? So metta is literally like the practice of loving kindness is what the translation is. And the idea is that, you're going to be sending loving kindness energy to yourself, then to someone that you like or love, then to someone that you might be having a difficult time with, that you may not necessarily want to send love to, but we're going to do it anyway. And then sending it all over the world to every living being. It's those 4 steps. And you can say, I believe, I haven't memorized it, but it's like, may you be safe, may you be happy, may you be healthy. You can also kind of say that mantra as well and send it out like, may I be safe, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be whole, may you be safe, may you be happy, may you be healthy, and send that also out as well. So that's what metta, and metta is spelled METTA, just in case you're Googling it. Yes, that is exactly it. Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, and it's really a great practice, and you can practice metta in real time. I was talking about this with my little peer group in the program that I'm in right now with Jack and Tara, and you can practice metta out loud, like like if you're like walking around somewhere, if you're at a coffee shop waiting in line, like give somebody a compliment. It's like the best feeling in the whole world to give somebody a compliment. Or you can even just stand there and just send love. Just send love, like a burst of love to whoever's walking by, and they don't even know. Right? But you can actually send this love to any stranger walking by on the street, anybody who's in your vicinity, anybody who's far away. You can like direct beam it over to them. And it's just a really beautiful way to just cultivate that sense of connectedness and also that feeling of love. So, like, drive by metta, like you can do it, and it definitely will put you in a good mood. It does for me, for sure. And then someone asked on the live stream, when is it better to go with the flow of an emotion and when to do the opposite? So that's a good question. So basically, like when you're feeling a really strong or intense emotion, going with the flow is like that definition is different for everybody, but you're not going to be in the space to necessarily get distance from it. You're in it, you're in the thick of the storm, right? You are in a little sailboat and the ocean is going crazy and the thunder's coming down and the rain is coming down. You're like holding on for dear life. You're like, oh shit, here we go. And you just have to hold on, right? That's in those moments when you're really feeling emotions. The best thing you can do is allow them to come through and somatically release them in a way that's going to serve you, you know. So if you're feeling a lot of anger, the idea would be feel that rage, let that rage out, but don't like punch somebody or like get into a screaming argument with somebody, because that never feels good at the end of the day. So what you're going to do is I have like a video I just posted, you can take a pillow and punch the crap out of the pillow until that rage is released. You know, if you're feeling really sad, cry and just put on, even like if you need help, like put on sad music that makes you emotional, and just like let yourself really cry until you're done crying, right? Be with that feeling, let it be. And at a certain point, if you allow it to exist and you breathe into it and you give it permission to take up space without making any impulsive reactive decisions, but rather really sitting consciously with it and allowing it to have space, like I said, it really dissipates the emotion pretty quickly. And then after that, you can try seeing if it feels good for you to reframe what you're thinking around that experience, or to figure out what conscious choice you want to make next, to practice that pause. But when you're in the thick of it, like you gotta like be in the thick of it, and all you can do is really just let it out somatically and then kind of go into more of the mindfulness practices. Sometimes emotions can be too overwhelming to just you know, be mindful about. You're not in the space to be able to do that. Let's see. Do-do-do. Any other questions from you guys in the Zoom? Okay. Okay,
I
awesome.
have I
So,
have one
yeah,
more
yeah,
quick question.
sure,
What's some
sure.
good language to reframe when you're noticing a thought pattern that's not supportive? What's a good way to turn it around? Like something like,
Mhm.
I always fail.
Gotcha.
Or no, but I don't connect with anybody. Um, and you notice,
Mm.
okay, I don't want that anymore. I want to input something new. You just
Yeah.
repeat the opposite, or what do you recommend?
Well, it's kind of nuanced. So the question you're asking is like when you have like a belief system that's kind of harming you, or you have thoughts that are like not serving you, like I'm not good enough, or I can't connect with people, or whatever it might be. How do you reframe that? How do you reframe that, right? Like how do you begin kind of shifting out of that perspective? So, you know, the first thing to do is first of all acknowledge that that's what you're believing and that's what your thoughts are that are coming up. Just kind of like notice them and don't attach them, but just kind of notice them, almost like they're cars on a road in front of you and you're just kind of watching them drive by. Oh, there's a thought. Oh, there's a thought. Oh, there's a thought. um, and then, you know, I think the process that I think is easiest is before you reframe, get curious about where it's coming from, right? So really questioning, like, that's interesting. Like, I wonder why that's the thought that I'm having. Like, is the root of this? Like, where is this coming from? And kind of like gently exploring that. And usually we can pinpoint it to some kind of past experience that we've had. So let's say I don't connect with anyone, right? And let's say that's the thought that's popping up. I don't connect with anyone. I have a really hard time connecting with anyone. What I would do is sit and breathe into that in a meditation and go, when did I start feeling like I couldn't connect? Like what have been my experiences that made me feel like I couldn't connect with people? And then offering yourself like compassion, right? And going, it's okay. And usually when you kind of do that exploration, you can come up with your own answer. Maybe I have a hard time connecting with people because people have really hurt me in the past. And as much as I deeply crave that connection and I want it so badly, there's an unconscious part of me that's still really afraid. And can I give that part of me some compassion and space and love and understanding? Kind of going, okay, you're okay. And then that's the reframe that happens. It's no longer I can't connect with people. It's I'm really scared of connecting with people. What can I do to support myself in trying to open up more?
Mm-hmm.
And always ending that with like, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so it
Okay.
is, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Does
Okay.
that make sense?
Right. Yeah. So not sometimes it doesn't feel genuine to immediately jump to the opposite. So I like this
Yeah.
more gradual process.
Yeah. And you know, I will also say belief systems that are very strong are it's going to feel like to be quite frank bullshit when you tell yourself the opposite
Mm-hmm.
and you start reframing and doing that process. There's a big muscle you've built around this old belief system that when you're like, hey, I'm gonna do this one with this weak noodle arm. This guy's like, hey, wait, no, hold on 1 second. That's not true. What are you doing? That's not real. That doesn't make any sense. That's bullshit. And you will feel disingenuous at sometimes, not all the time. But the
Mm-hmm.
more that you reinforce the new belief system, the more your brain accepts it.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, even putting up post it reminders of these new beliefs
Mm-hmm.
that you're creating for yourself, like
Mm-hmm.
letting your brain see it every day, like practicing it out loud, saying it to yourself. I actually can connect with people really well. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just afraid to do that. And it's what I really
Yeah.
want. And I'm going to get it. But, give myself some time. That's going to help
Yeah.
basically connect neurons that make that belief system believable for you. And eventually it doesn't feel disingenuous. But it
Okay.
will feel like disingenuous the first couple of times because it's something that your brain is like, that's not what we believe. And it has a very
Mm-hmm.
strong desire to keep things the status quo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's trusting the process too. It's going through each
Yeah.
step, but also just trusting the process and repeating what you desire, and then having compassion when you slip and so forth.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And
Okay.
like
Thank you.
for everybody, it's just like, of course, and for everybody, it's just like remember that you're a whole person, like a whole ass human. You're complex. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to make mistakes. You're going
Mm-hmm.
to sometimes hurt people by accident or even
Mm-hmm.
on purpose. Doesn't make these
Mm-hmm.
things okay necessarily, but giving
Mm-hmm.
yourself some grace around
Mm-hmm.
all of it and just going,
Yeah.
okay, this is where I am right now, and that's okay. And what can
Mm-hmm.
I do to make it better tomorrow? Have a better day tomorrow. Like do better, like be better, be who I want to be. What choices can I make?
Okay.
You know? Yeah,
Okay. Great. Thank you.
of course. My pleasure. Um, so we're going to hopefully you guys can join for all of the little meetings. But tomorrow we're going to be talking about mindfulness of breath and literally how to breathe properly. I hate to say right or wrong or properly or not properly, but literally there is a correct way of breathing that allows us to really regulate ourselves, our nervous system, our feelings, our thoughts. The breath is really where it all starts because it's like kind of like a light switch in our body that when we're breathing a certain way, it promotes all kinds of stress. And when we learn how to breathe a different way, promotes all kinds of expansion and safety and calm and groundedness. So we're going to be doing a breath focus tomorrow. And then the following day, we'll be doing mindfulness of body. So really getting in touch with your body and like connecting your consciousness to your physical experience, sensations, getting back into your embodied states, which we are what like basically human beings. We walk around like we're just cut from the neck up. Like this is all this is where we are all the time. We really forget that we have whole bodies that are feeling things all the time that are churning and going and tight and soft and all these things and tuning into our body's language and learning how our body speaks to us through sensations is amazing because it helps us really navigate how and understand how we're feeling and how we're experiencing things, and where we might need to step in and give ourselves some like somatic release or love or tenderness and things like that. And so we'll be getting more into our embodiment. And then the last day on Friday, we're going to be talking about mindfulness of emotions with kind of a special focus on difficult emotions. So, how do you sit with the difficult feelings that come up? How do you, like, kind of the process we talked about before, Allison, when you asked that question? How do you kind of sit in the boat and weather the storm when these difficult feelings arise without taking reactive action and letting them flow through so they can get out and you can kind of like move on? And it's a really great skill to have just in life in general, because life is all ups and downs. And of course we'll touch on, you know, like mindfulness of positive feelings too, so it won't be all heavy, but definitely wanted to touch on the heaviness stuff because I know that's what a lot of us go through. And Chelsea, yeah, thank you for letting me have this room.